Orenthal James Simpson, more commonly known as OJ, is or was a former running back in the National Football League for the Buffalo Bills and San Francisco 49ers. More of that to come later. Welcome back to Beer There, Drunk That.
Gotta start with a throwback. Gotta start with the OJ respect.
Yeah, rest in peace to the juice.
Yeah, something like that.
He was like my favorite Twitter account. Like,
I mean,
he would
I
post
feel like
videos
AB
from the
is
golf
sneaking up
course.
on him, Antonio Brown, for those of you that don't know.
But like OJ would post videos from the golf course and just be like, "Hey, Twitter world, it's me, yours truly. I had my fantasy draft last night, and I'm happy with how I did. I went for Aaron Rodgers in the first round because he's the best one. He's the best quarterback. And you know I'm a 49er, so I had to get Trey Lance. And I just believe in Kenny Pickett. So I drafted a third quarterback. And I'm like, he was just the funniest account ever. And there was one video where he was talking about like how he did something well. He's like, yeah, that's why they call me Juice.
Yeah, he murdered two people.
Allegedly.
Well, that's what this podcast is going to turn into. It's going to be a true crime podcast.
Just about OJ Simpson, though.
Yeah. We go into the theory that his son did it and everything.
Yep.
I've never heard that theory.
Really?
Yeah.
Tune in to the next podcast.
No, that's like a big one. Is his son did it because like the glove didn't fit OJ's hand, yada yada. His son was a chef who had I think like domestic violence issues and stuff in the past.
Oh, good Lord.
So there was, and that's why the DNA matched. Yada yada. Either way, what are we drinking tonight, boys? Let's just get into the chase.
I'm drinking the blood of OJ's enemies. No. I have Contour Variable Blue. It's a farmhouse ale, 6%.
Ooh.
It looks pretty
Farmhouse
good.
ale, cousin to the cream ale.
Yeah, actually, on the same note, I did. So I was in Charleston this weekend after I went to Hilton Head, and I had Lo-Fi, their blueberry wheat, and I gotta say it was fairly solid, but it's nothing compared to the Ellicottville and the main UFO. I think it's just not on the same tier. So
You ever had Blue Paw from Sea
little
Dog?
free review for you guys.
Blue Paw, Sea Dog Brewing. It's a blueberry flavored wheat ale. That one
I
tastes
haven't.
like jelly
No.
beans, but they have a.
Okay.
They're in like Maine and New Hampshire. There's a Sea Dog Brewing in my hometown.
I was just talking to Matt. I've mentioned him before, but Matt Gnatowski. This weekend we did a little bit of a brewery hop. And we were talking about blueberry ales and blueberry flavored beers, and he had mentioned that he does not like Ellicottville, but Rohrbox is great.
Rohrbox is good.
And then UFO, as you said. But I
Yeah,
was
the
very
UFO.
surprised to hear him say that about the lovely Ellicottville.
Well, Matt, we're gonna have an issue, and that's why we're doing sours this week.
When's he out of the country?
Donnie and I prepared 2 sours, and you look like an idiot.
Dumbass.
Well, I'm drinking a Stroh's.
So you went macro today, Luke?
I did. But I have a soft spot in my heart for Stroh's. I grew up on it.
Yeah. Baby bottle.
Literally. Yeah, but I was gonna say.
I got the last of the ice cream pack, the Pine Lime Cream Ale from Indeed. So these beers, I will say, supplied me by Don and Kathy, Sophie's parents. Shout out to them. Sophie's mom, when we were leaving Indeed a couple weeks ago, she was like, "All right, which ones do you want?" And just started pulling them out of the case while we were still in the brewery. But then Sophie and I actually won our own case of this that we split up between the two of us for after trivia last week.
Oh, awesome.
We won trivia for the week.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So I have actually had this. I drank one the other night. Blue raspberry was the best of them. But I'm thirsty. Let's crack these.
Let's do it.
Sláinte.
This smells pretty sour. Let's see how it tastes.
You gonna pucker? Or is that just for getting a kiss?
Oh my Lanta.
Tart?
Quite.
I'm committing. I'm just going full degenerate tonight because I just poured it into a Guinness glass.
I fucking hate you.
I just don't care. I
All
just
right.
don't care today. Today was a Monday. I mean,
We're
it
done
was a
recording.
Tuesday, but it's was a Monday.
We're done recording because you just did that.
Recording has stopped. Oh.
Well, Luke, I'm gonna put you on the spot then. You're going first because you're an asshole.
Done
Again,
ship it.
second podcast in a row you've been an asshole. So we're gonna have to work on
Oh,
that.
okay. Can I just say I don't know that we've had a podcast episode yet that I haven't been an asshole. So
I
I
was
don't.
about to say the
I've
same
set the
thing.
bar real.
That's fair. That's fair.
No, one thing I would like, I mentioned this to you guys a couple weeks ago, but that I would like to start doing before we do these, and I'm just gonna do it now. We're gonna intro the style. Like, why is this beer what it is? So I've got a little thing pulled up that I read earlier at work.
Mm.
Porters, for those of you who aren't familiar, um, they're ales except for Baltic porters, which are actually like using lager yeasts. So that's why they taste a little different. And they actually tend to be my favorite type of porter because I like lagers. But the thing is, like everyone talks about how porters and stouts are so similar, and the first stout was actually a porter. It was a porter stout ale. They use dark roasty malts. Um, I think a porter is generally a little lighter body than a stout is. Stouts usually have a creamier mouthfeel. Um, Stouts use roasted barley and porters usually don't, and that's like the only real difference. They're kind of interchangeable otherwise. But yeah, they're both great, like colder weather, darker beers. Yeah, and that's my 2 cents on porters. Take it away, Luke.
Well, I was gonna say it's kind of funny because in the world of porters and stouts, there are times that you'll have a porter where you could, if you were blindfolded, you would never guess in a million years that it was what it was, and it wasn't a like a porter or a stout. I forget which order I started in. but but it is kind of cool. Like I definitely can think of some porters that I've had that taste like stouts or have that sort of creamy or like body to it. And vice versa. So it is kind of cool that it's sort of interchangeable today. Um and sometimes you can just distinguish it through name alone. And with that being said, my first tasting beer was Rising Storm's Nocturnal Storm Vanilla Porter, which is actually part of their Eclipse. Like they did a whole Eclipse theme too. So I had two of the other ones in that Eclipse series of theirs as well. And I this was one of the breweries that Matt Brody and I stopped at. These are my coworkers. Um, and so he's going to be featured in the tasting, the first sips, which I'm excited for. But it is, well, go figure, vanilla forward. And it's not a sweet vanilla. It's more of an earthy vanilla, as Matt said, but it's roasty, but not so much smoky. So it kind of hits some notes more than others, and misleads you through the aroma, I feel like. But and the nice thing too is, and I appreciate this in anything, not just beer, but it's like it's not that artificial vanilla flavor at all. It's um like more of a natural uh vanilla flavor from what I could tell. And I definitely feel like that's preferable.
Like when you have like
So
vanilla bean ice cream versus just like generic Wegmans brand vanilla.
Yeah,
You
versus like
know,
vanilla Tootsie Roll.
yes. Or like golden Oreo vanilla.
Oh yeah. That's a great example actually. I could never really get behind golden Oreos.
well, I think that sounds like a you problem.
Oh, here we go.
No.
All right.
Um and have either of you been to Rising Storm, the
Mm-mm.
brewery?
I
It's down
haven't.
like Avon, Livonia area.
I've heard great things, but I haven't had the chance to go down.
Oh, it's awesome. And they're generally known for their sour IPAs.
Hmm.
Um, and they have some good ones, but a couple of those sour IPAs of theirs kind of toe the line for me for what I like in a sour, believe it or not. even though
Well,
it's kind of more the beer direction.
so is it more sour or IPA?
To me, it's more sour. You get some of the hoppy, like the IPA ness, I guess, through the
Uh,
finish, which is bizarre. But oh, I see
you want
what
to say
I
I
that three
did.
times fast, Luke? IPA-ness.
no. How did you
There it
say
is.
how
There it
heavy of a
is.
beer it was? Like, was it a
So
mid
it was
body?
6 point. So it was a medium body.
Okay.
I would say mid body for sure. 6.1% ABV, and I give it a 3.25 on Untapped.
Okay.
It was pretty good. Um,
So it was pleasant, but it wasn't your favorite.
yeah, that's exactly how I'd put it. Well, and the I kept forgetting the name of it when we were trying to record the first sips. I'm like nighttime, something. And my buddy Brody behind the camera, you hear him go, nocturnal emissions.
I think it's what my car gives off. Uh, it's holding up cue cards for you, Luke.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was I mean the experience definitely made it. But actually part of that their Eclipse series was a black IPA and a black lager. So those actually were very good. And I honestly would put those a little higher than this vanilla porter, but it was still good.
what's your experience with black IPAs? Like, do you generally like them? I've only ever had one, and
Um
I didn't like it.
yeah, so it's funny because we started the day at Mortalis, um which is another place known for their sours, except their sours are like whipped sours or like the puree almost sours, which are so good. And they're also known for their stouts. But so they had a black IPA there, but still Tracy B's Black Eye, or their black rye IPA is my favorite of all time in that category for sure. And even the broader, I think, IPA category, but it's good. So you said you had one. Do you remember which one it was?
It was called Live Free or Die from Woodstock Inn Brewery, in Woodstock, New Hampshire. Let me pull it up. I gave it like a two or something like that. Live Free or Die Black IPA, 8.3% because IPA Black slash Cascadian Dark Ale. I give it a 2.75. Um, it was just like strong and like it just had all like the IPA notes that I don't love in it. And
Yeah,
that's kind of where I was like, ah.
that's right up my alley. It's for sure. I like roastier, like I just like that kind of brand.
I will say, like with the like you say like a black rye IPA from Tracy B's, I tend to not like rye in beers, and that's
Oh,
something
that's
I
right. You
know.
mentioned that, I think.
The
Did you
fish
mention
fry
that last
rye
week?
from it's probably a while ago. They have the fish fry rye at Mobcraft, and that beer is just not a. It's like tastes like caraway seeds. It's just not my thing.
Keegan, have you had a black IPA?
I have never had one, so I'm trying to soak in all this information right now because I'm yeah, I don't have much to input on it. It sounds like something I'd be willing to try. Is it I mean for my own knowledge, is it more like a baby between like a brown ale and an IPA, like that direction of things?
Um,
It looks a lot darker than it tastes usually.
yes.
My
Oh,
first like
Yeah.
exposure, I didn't have them, but when I was in Texas for work in October, went to a couple breweries while I was there. A couple fantastic places. Celestial Beer Works and Manhattan Project, two of the best breweries I've ever been to. Um, but they were like black IPAs, like I noticed were like a common menu theme there.
hmm.
But I
Okay,
don't know if you can speak more to it, Luke. Like I think it looks like a dark lager almost, Keegan, like a Schwarzbier.
gotcha.
It does. I think they tend to really approach that. You would not guess by looking at it that it's an IPA at all.
No, and that's why I had it because we were at it was actually the memorial service for my grandfather that I had it at. It was at the brewery, but my stepdad was drinking it. I'm like, oh, what do you have? He's like, oh, I have live free or die. Because I was like, why is Todd drinking a dark, like a beer that dark? And then I was like, oh, if he likes it, I'll like it. And then I did not like it.
Todd fooled you. He got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we should probably swing it back to porters at some point.
Well, I
Maybe
also
maybe at
have
some point.
a vanilla e porter
Ooh.
from Broken Bat Brewing Co. I have Magellan, which on there it says like I don't know if you Keegan's probably heard it, but nice root Magellan. You know that?
Nice root Magellan.
That's like when
No.
you're
I
kind of like
don't.
ribbing a guy in sports, like if they make like a crazy play in the outfield or something like that, and it like takes a while to get there, like oh nice root Magellan, something like that.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
But this
Yeah.
is a
Like he finally
porter.
got there.
Yeah, like this is a porter with cinnamon and vanilla. Um, it
Ooh.
is 5.8% ABV. This is like I must have messed something up with this because I threw it in the freezer for like 5 minutes just to like chill it down a little bit more and just ruined it, I think. There was a lot of bubbles coming out when I poured it, and the carbonation was all screwed up. Um, but overall, it was like the note I got in my mouth was apple pie with ice cream between the
Oh.
cinnamon vanilla. The cinnamon was just the right amount of like spicy, smoky cinnamon flavor that you get. With the vanilla, like this was a sweet vanilla Luke for sure.
Oh, cool.
It was relatively like I would say relatively light bodied in terms of porter, still a medium body type beer. Um, it definitely tasted like vanilla bean sweetness, not like you know like like I said, it was sweet but not earthy. Um, it was a solid beer. I gave this a 3.25. I'd drink it again. You know, I think it's in the middle of the road of beers I've had from there. Like it's fine. They don't do a lot of darker beers. They have like maybe 1 to 2 stouts or porters at any given point in time, and most of their stuff is a lot lighter. Um, so it was nice to see something that's a little different. And they've had this on the menu for a while. When they rebranded a couple months ago, this was like one of the first beers that they announced. Um, and I've been wanting to try it. And I'll say I was impressed because I had low expectations. Just because I was like, oh, these guys aren't really known for their porters. But then again, like they used to have a Mexican chocolate stout called Pablo. That was like one of
Wow.
the best beers I've ever had in Milwaukee.
So they kind
Beers,
of they don't swing for porters often, but when they do, they knock them out of the park.
yeah. Well,
Is
that
what it
Mexican
seems like.
chocolate stout Pablo was named after Pablo Sanchez, the greatest athlete of our generation.
Nice. Backyard, yeah, greatest athlete. I was gonna say backyard baseball player, but really any athlete, he's the best.
Yeah.
This is going to come out of left field, no pun intended. But uh Matt informed me that like the original, what was it? The original artificial vanilla flavor
It's like beaver
came
anus or
from,
something like
yeah,
that.
beaver anus.
Yeah.
What sick bastard figured that out?
The same sick bastard that went up to a cow, got underneath it, and started pulling until something came out.
Yeah,
And
that's
and
true.
and you pray to that man every day, Luke.
Yep. Sick bastards built this world.
Listen,
Yeah.
I think that could go for a lot of things. One of the weirdest ones. Think about the guy that first cracked open an egg. That first said that came out of a chicken's ass. Let's cook it.
Yeah, that's
There
true.
there's so many things like I've never been a milk drinker. I know you are, Luke, but I just cannot get behind it. It weirds me out, grosses me out in so many ways.
I
I
remember, dude, cows are so freaking weird. They just like these essentially like bulging eyes and weird shapes. I
Well, Luke, just describe the cows now, not yourself.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Well, so one of my old bosses, okay, he is a cow farmer on the side. So we were doing they were called office hours were essentially like he would talk to members of the public and that. So he decided that he was going to bring a calf at one point. So he has like we're at an ice cream place and he has 4 benches like forming a sort of fence, but a real short fence around this calf. And I even asked him, I'm like, "Hey, Robert, are they going to stay in there? Do you think, or like, is this calf going to stay inside of that?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, he won't go anywhere."
They
And
can
then
jump.
probably 2 minutes, yeah, he freaking cleared it.
Yes.
And he starts heading off. Just a row calf with a bunch of people and children grabbing ice cream next door. It's like it was hilarious. I loved it.
And that calf later became veal.
Yeah,
They killed it
I
on the
bet
spot.
Oh, we have to get him back, and he's like, "Oh, no problem."
Yeah.
No.
If I can request, I would love for this beer to be tossed into my beer case because I'm an apple pie guy. It sounds delicious, and maybe if I don't freeze it, it won't explode.
Yeah.
But if you're looking to only do ones that you don't review, I respect that.
No, the beer cases. So I'm working on these. I I'll probably head to Total Wine at some point this weekend. My plan was to give you guys 6 like staple Milwaukee beers.
Hmm.
And so I have a list of them. I'm kind of trying to keep it a secret just so
Okay.
you guys can see them.
That's
But
fair.
I may toss in something extra just for fun because the cases I have will fit more than 6.
Awesome. So we'll keep it a secret from Keegan, but you want to let me know what it is?
Yeah. I'll sign it. Oh wait.
Yeah, we're gonna
He'll
have to
pick
we're
up
gonna
on
have
it.
to start formulating some lists to have Donnie have 24 beers.
Yeah. I've got a second iteration of the list too where it's like greater Wisconsin beers too.
You're diving in. I appreciate that.
Well, I just think there's again the beer culture is just great out here, and like I don't think the beers out here are as widely distributed as like the beers you can get a lot of times, Keegan. Because like
Mhm.
like I find a lot of those like Brooklyn, like the New York and the Connecticut breweries at Total Wine here.
Yeah, I got you. Definitely.
Y- yeah, I wonder if we're going to be the only reason why the U.S. Postal Service stops hemorrhaging money.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep them afloat
Yeah. We
or drunk,
noticed
if they
patterns
spill.
between 3 noteworthy cities. It's just
Shout out Sophie's dad's friend Paul, who works for the U.S. Postal Service.
Like the beer,
Paul.
Paul.
Yeah, Paul.
Paul.
Paul's
Wait, was
great.
it that same Paul that there was that where the hell is Paul?
Yes, that was him. Where the hell is Paul?
So he's a character we've heard before on the pod, so that's pretty cool.
Yes. Yes, I am sure Don will text him as soon as he hears it in the episode.
Hell is yeah, Paul.
Yeah. Hell's yeah, Keegan. Talk about your beers.
All right, I'm gonna
You got a
start with a
vanilla one?
non-local one first. I don't. I actually, Donnie, you'll enjoy this. So I actually went with 2 Baltic porters because
Ooh.
I never had them. So I wanted to really dive into like a Baltic porter.
I didn't drink
Um,
any for this episode. I'll give that spoiler.
well,
Ooh.
that just ruined the whole. I don't know if I want to watch the rest.
Close your eyes.
So, it's a fodder lagered Rugen, which I know I pronounced horribly wrong.
No, that sounded authentic.
Didn't it sound good?
Deutsch.
So this was actually brewed at Schilling Beer Company in Littleton, New Hampshire.
I do know about
So,
Schilling. They make a lot of like classical styled beers.
yeah, so it wasn't what I was expecting. When I saw the name, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be a European beer, not a European beer."
They
But
get really good reviews.
nonetheless,
I've never heard of a bad thing.
it was a no. I mean, I enjoyed this beer. It was a what's the percent on it? 8.6% smoked Baltic porter, which I was intrigued by, indubitably.
Indubitably.
Um, so the notes that I had. So yeah, so it's definitely like a mid-bodied feel. So the texture that I was expecting, kind of a porter, which was nice. It kind of has this sweetness that I couldn't really put my finger on. It was like maybe a little bit kind of chocolatey, but not really. And then it finished with a bitterness or that not. I'm sorry, it didn't. Was that this one or the other one? No, it didn't have a bitterness.
Get him a water.
Somebody, I here's the thing: is like it's crazy. No, this was the smoky one. Yeah. So this one was like, so I learned the retro nasal tasting at the Guinness factory. I'm going to reference it, Ireland, as much as I can over
No,
the next
please
year and a
do.
half.
That's your
So
whole
Please rub it in.
personality
ready.
now.
But basically, breathing in, it is breathing in through your nose, taking a big sip of the beer, and then letting it sit for a second or two, and then as you swallow, you breathe out. And so that really allows you to kind of get that up into like the higher part of your palate. Luke's trying it right now. Um,
I finished
and
my beer. I
so
can't do it.
yes, so I think, and I've started doing that with more of my beers, which I find it helps me to taste it a little bit more intricately than how I was doing it before. So this one I did that, and it definitely had that smoky finish at the top, which I really enjoyed, honestly. I was a little bit nervous for it first, but I mean, I thought it was good. The two other things I put in here, I said I thoroughly enjoyed this beer, and this is what a porter should be. I gave it a 4.0 on Untapped. I definitely
Ooh,
enjoyed it and would revisit this beer without a doubt.
way cool.
So it was just kind of like a no frills, like a little bit
Questions,
smoky,
concerns?
good porter.
It was good. Yeah, it was like, it wasn't anything that knocked my socks off, but it did the job. I thought it was a good beer.
If you were blindfolded, would you maybe think it was a stout?
No, definitely not. It was thin enough. Again, like more of that. I wouldn't necessarily call it moreish, but it wasn't like to the point of that creaminess or the thickness
Yeah,
of
it
the
wasn't
stouts.
Mhm.
rich, like too rich or
Doesn't feel
Exactly.
like a,
Yeah. I
a
mean,
full on dessert.
correct. Correct. I could have a couple of those and still like not feel like the Marshmallow Man.
I feel like
much.
that normally, so
I do too. It's
my
okay.
default state.
The
It was
default
just
state. That's the factory reset.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm interested because I think when I've had smoked beers, it was that weird Rauch beer from
Oh, that's right.
Torzala. Which again, every other beer I had there was phenomenal, except that one. But
Mm.
I've only had like lighter smoked beers. I've never had like a dark beer, which I think lends itself to smoking more.
Yeah, I was very intrigued. So I would be interested to follow this up with some more smoked beers. Actually, Luke, as our resident smoker of beers, I should say, um, did you have that finding with Tracy B's? Like, did you find that the darker beers went over better with smoking, or is that an industry secret now that Tracy B's holds?
Um,
Trademarked.
so well, so I have to be careful what I say because I know Jim has grand plans over there at Tracy B's.
Okay.
Um, I'll say we were very surprised by the style that stuck out the most with the beers that we smoked. Um, although one that was not surprising was his Whirly Bird oatmeal stout. That is such a fantastic, just solid stout. Um, when smoked was just beautiful, just wonderful. But yeah, I think typically darker beers are ones that I would be more apt to smoke because those are the ones too that you'll see barrel aged way more often than you'll see something lighter barrel aged.
Very true. Yeah.
Which again raises like um really good alarms in my head every time I see it. It's just like the dinner bell is ringing and anything that says barrel aged or even touched a barrel for 1 or 2 seconds, I'll grab.
I should have bought a bunch of it when it was released. MKE Brewery, which is like got bought out by Eagle Park, which is big around here. They have a beer called OG, which is like a tea infused wit beer. But it's like 9%. I
Whoa.
think it's the best beer mosa beer I've ever had. And that's why I like to buy it. But they did a gin barrel aged like series of that beer.
That is so cool to like.
It's such a
There's
weird concept of it's a gin barrel aged that has a tea infused wit beer in it. Like it was just one of the most unique things I've ever seen.
that sounds so freaking cool. Well,
That's wild.
just barrel
Yeah.
aging to me is such a cool. I feel like in a past life I made barrels or
You're
something.
kind of built like one, so
Yeah, well, very true. Well, it's funny because it was probably, it was very early on when I was going to Tracy B's. My dad
when you
and
were like
I went,
7.
yeah, but my dad and I went to Geneva. We were doing some brewery hopping, and we stopped in at they're called the Staving Artist. And so it's a bunch of barrel staves that are made into different artwork or have like different burns in it or prints on it. And so I got one that says drink local. It's a full stave and it is so freaking cool. I've seen it at tons and tons of breweries. But I bought a second one while I was there and gave it to Jim. And he I remember it was winter time. And he looks at it, he goes, "Oh, dude, no freaking way. Thank you." He goes, "This is for me?" I go, "Yeah." He hung it up on the wall and it never got touched again. It has hung in that same place. It was perfect. I'm like, that's how you knew you did okay with a gift, is if it gets set down or hung up somewhere and never has to be touched again.
If it has an imprint now.
Yeah, and dust, but if it's sacred.
That's more of a sanitary thing.
Yeah.
Well, we hope we leave our imprint and gift giving on all of you while we take a quick break here uh, before we come back for the second half of the show. Welcome back to Beer There, Drunk That. I kind of went with a macro beer for my second beer for this episode because Luke gave me permission to.
Yeah, I started a precedent that is dangerous and should be put down immediately.
Blue Moon Mango Wheat. This is one of the like top macro beers for me. This beer is just juice. It is crushable. I could drink a case of this beer and feel amazing. I could drink a case of any beer and feel amazing, though.
It's a pool beer for me.
Mm-hmm.
Very much a pool beer.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna go fill my bathtub up after this and just buy it.
I'm drinking. Just for fun. Get some sand in from the outside.
Yeah, I'm gonna go dig it up.
So I have it's Westbrook Brewing Company, which actually is out of Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. So basically just where I was.
Mount Pleasant's the name of the town I work in.
Mount Pleasant was my nickname in high school.
There it is. Luke had to
I'm trying to Mount Pleasant.
It's a key lime pie sour. So we're gonna see how she goes. Because that beer was a little tart, so why not back it up with another sour?
Well, we were talking about Jim and Tracy B's tonight, and so Zach and I opened up our growler of Some Bitch Light, which is
Some bitch.
It stands for some unbeatable malted barley intended to cause happiness. It is so.
I thought that was just your other nickname in high school.
you some bitch.
Yeah, get go on, get
go on, get
get.
Y'all get.
There it is. This
so good beers all around.
It is. I mean, it's quite interesting on the first sip.
Do you like? I mean, I know we review other beers for this show, but I think oftentimes we just crack open random beers while we record.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get like, is it just limey or do you get the other key lime pie flavors? Like I've had it before where you like taste the graham cracker crust.
Nope, it's just lime.
For those who can't see, Keegan is puckering right now.
And not just my mouth. Yeah, no, it's a lot of lime. I don't hate it, but it's sour. This
You
is
don't
a
look
more
like you love
pleasant
it.
of the sours that I've had on the show recently. Um, well,
Huh.
yeah, nah, this is not bad. It's not bad. Luke, how about you tell us about a good beer?
Okay. Well,
Did you drink
so
one?
That's a better
That'd be
start, I
really
guess.
funny.
Is this gonna be a good beer that you start us with?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. This is the one I sent a picture of to you guys in front of my freshly mowed lower yard and the creek and that. So it was I was in the right setting for sure. But I figured I would have a Three Heads Brewing beer and I think set myself up for success much more than I did last week when I had the the Fuego cold brew crap. That I'm sure is good to people who like it, but I was just not a big fan. I give this one a 4.25 on Untapped. I want to start with that. It was a barrel aged Baltic porter with iron smoke whiskey.
Once
It
again,
was
the trend of you having beers with very long names.
yes. Yeah, it's always a mouthful. Um Rochester, New York based brewery. Had talked about it last episode, but like I said, I want to set myself up with success and grab a Three Heads beer I was likely to enjoy, and I definitely enjoyed this. I can't think of the last time I had a beer that hit me with just such an intense like whiskey, like true whiskey taste. It was it caught me off guard because I'm a big whiskey drinker. I love whiskey. A lot of times I'll have a beer that says it's barrel aged and I can taste that, but it doesn't punch me. This punched me. This is like, and unlike many of the stouts that tend to boast like rich and creamy flavors, like we had said, um, and kind of along with their barrel aging, there was a very stark boozy note with this beer. It was a 10.5 percenter. Um,
Ooh,
I got notes of chocolate and hints of smoke, but it did like a quick punch in the middle. Um, very good, sweet but somewhat dry finish. And the aroma actually, it's funny. The aroma was very misleading to me. This was another, my second porter that had been misleading to me from the aroma through the taste, but because it was like a slight fruity sweetness that I did not get any of when I tasted the actual beer.
It's funny how that happens when it like translates. Like I've noticed that like with whiskey in particular, like you get like a lot of like cherry notes and stuff in the scent, and then you taste it and you're like, oh, that's like oak and vanilla.
Yeah, yeah. No, I completely agree. It was I don't know. It was a really solid beer. It was a solid porter. It's one that I
hey
would
Zach.
definitely have again. And yeah, that was Zach crossing in the background.
Isaac.
Isaac. Um, but yeah, it was fantastic. I enjoyed it thoroughly. And talk about two like Rochester staple, really enjoyable um uh places, a brewery and a distillery. Both of those are freaking awesome.
Love those places.
Luke, I kind of want to try this beer, so I'm gonna need to. When next time I'm in Rochester, I'm gonna have you give me some.
For sure, we'll do. And actually they had it's the same thing, but it says breakfast in quotes. Um and I'm sure it has some maple stuff going on with it, but this is the front, like super simple. It looks like wood, almost kind of
Yeah,
like
that's
Oh,
sick.
I thought it was just like a white can with like a little bit of stripes, but that's really cool.
yeah, it's pretty neat. And then there it is, iron smoke, if the camera would focus.
I love that when breweries like either collab not only with other breweries but also with other like elements to it. Like I had last week with the batshit crazy, which had Valentine coffee in it, which
Hmm.
was really cool. And Valentine like They used to have one right by my old apartment, and then they closed that one down, so they're just in the city now. But it's cool to see that like businesses support businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and I,
oh, go ahead, Keegan.
I was just gonna say, like people. It's so amazing to me because like there are just people that are so much more creative than I am with ways that they can do that, and the ways they can incorporate other people's products of production and other ideas into their own. It's just people are a lot smarter than I am.
Well, what I'm drinking right now, the Some Bitch beer, is they use there's farming Some Bitch, which is they the acronym for them stands for something else, but Jim uses they're like a local farmer over there in Leroy. I think they're within the town limits. And he uses their barley and like their grain. Um and he uses a lot of local stuff too in the beer. I just love that so much. It's just keeping the money in the local area. It's so freaking cool.
Well,
Yeah,
like
you can actually. You're not only a locally located brewery, but you're actually a local brewery. Like you're using things from around you. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
well, it gives you a sense of community pride, like members of the community can just come together and see that things that maybe like some of the money that they put into either buying the beer or buying, stuff from farming some bitch and like Tom and them, it's like I feel like you get a lot out of it just
my
in general.
my stepdad grows barley most years for Tuckerman's, who he owns the owner of, back
Hmm.
in Conway, New Hampshire. And the beer they usually make with it is called Fresh Tracks IPA. But it says like right on there, locally sourced barley from JDM Farm. And I don't think this will leak anything. But his thing is, like as you guys know, I've grown up with cows and stuff like that. But he would like to like move into more like crop and like less physically taxing things on him.
Hmm.
Not that he's old by any means, but as he gets older, it's nicer to
Yeah, you
not
want to
be doing
lessen that load.
lessen the load. And so he's actually looking at becoming like a craft malter for breweries, like
Oh,
and
Oh
getting
wow.
so yeah, so he's gone to a couple seminars on it, and I think it would be a really cool thing for him to do. I think it would be really cool for like, because I think like he says that as far as he knows, there's no craft malters in New Hampshire. Like they always source from other places. So
Yeah.
I think it would be a really cool way for him to like, there's a lot of like New Hampshire based breweries that I've been to that like Woodstock Inn Brewery. They have all their beers are like live free or die or like 6288, that might have been Tuckerman's of 6288. Never mind. But either way, like they boast like New Hampshire themed things on their
Yeah.
beers, which I think is really cool. You
yeah,
know,
That
that's
is.
awesome.
And then
like small state pride. And I think like I said, I think it would be a big niche for him. Like personally, me, I would love to try home brewing within the next year. And so I would most certainly, buy whatever from him to try and brew from.
well, I was gonna say then when we start mass producing BTDT beer, we
Yeah.
got our supplier right there. It's all
Yeah,
about who
there
you
you
know.
have it.
Um, I'm gonna go second again for my second beer
Take it
because
away.
Luke drank from Three Heads Brewing. I have Phase Three Brewing Company, which is out Lake
Nice.
Whoa!
Zurich, New York, Lake Zurich, Illinois. Sorry. This is new, NIU. It's a toasted coconut porter. Uh, it is 6.3%. Um, this beer was like you could tell that it was toasted coconut in this beer. Like it had that nuttiness that you get from toasting the coconut. It was naturally sweet. And one thing that they call out, they say that we use real coconut. Coconut is high in oils. Sometimes these oils float to the top of the beer we use coconut in. It might be a bit odd, but it's harmless. Enjoy. And you got that slight coconut oily mouthfeel in the beer. So you could
Oh,
really tell that.
That's wild.
I gave this
that
beer
sounds
four out
really
of five.
cool.
It was like a classic porter taste and mouthfeel. Like just like kind of like yours earlier, Keegan. Like it was just like no frills, like great porter. And then you had that roasty, sweet coconut taste. Um, and it was just a little nutty on it. And then you had that slight oiliness on the tongue from the toasted coconut. It was really, really good. I was genuinely impressed with it. I'll have to text Emily Minnick if she's been there or not. because it's in Illinois.
Yeah, definitely check in with our Chicago fans.
Yeah, but I was very
That sounds like a really interesting beer.
like the can was kind of pretty, and I just picked it, and it was so good.
It's funny you bring up the oils because like I had never really thought about like the oil aspect of the ingredients you're using, and not just in beer too. Like I think about like when you're making like a an old fashioned, like using the what we normally think of the waste side of that orange and using those oils to create more of that orangey aroma, orangey flavor that like just maximize it. So I think that's really cool that they're able to actually. I mean, I guess that's because they're using real coconut, but um, that sounds really intriguing. I'm impressed listening to it.
Yeah, I was blown. Like I said, it was 4 out of 5. Like it wasn't my favorite beer in the world, but like it was an impressive beer. Like I said, it was a pretty can. I had never heard of Phase 3 Brewing, and it was one of the better things I've had recently.
Yeah, it's funny because there's certain there's certain flavors that I imagine are kind of hard to capture in a beer, but there's others that might add a little kind of weird consistency, but you can definitely capture. And I feel like coconut is one of those that if you do it right, you could capture it pretty easily in a beer, and it could be like that forward note or that
Sophie and I had a coconut and marshmallow beer one time at One of Us Brewing, which is literally across the street from my office. Um, I don't go there a lot after work because they don't open till 5 on weekdays, and I get to work at 7:30 in the morning. So you bet your ass I'm not there at 5. But we've gone down on the weekend and stuff. But she had one that was like marshmallow and coconut, and it tasted like sunscreen in the best way possible. I've probably mentioned it here.
Well, Matt Brody and I, when we started at Mortalis this weekend, um, we got it was called Puff the Magic Hydra Sour. It was a whipped sour, and it was like the noteworthy, like the tasty notes that they highlighted were blackberry, raspberry, and coconut. Now, we had not read any of that. When Matt took a sip, he goes, "Ooh, I get raspberry out of this." I took a sip and I go, "Dude, I taste coconut almost exclusively." It was like it's so wild to me how some beer can just like two different people can take a sip of it and get something so completely like different out of the taste, you know?
I think sometimes it's what your tongue is looking for, and also like we talk about like with splitting the G and like taking a gulp of Guinness. I think it's like how much, like how you take a sip too, and like what
Yeah.
parts of your tongue it hits. I'm no
Yeah.
sommelier, but that's my 2 cents.
I agree.
No, I see the logic in that for sure.
Yeah, but either way, I
All right,
love this
boy,
coconut
should
beer.
I? I'm glad. I'm glad. I would another one. You guys have. I mean, again, I do have a tendency to lean towards those darker beers, and I'm so far interested in trying everything that you guys have presented. So, um, I think you guys do a good job of selling it too. So, for my second
Hey,
beer,
Keegan,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt you real quick, but we're just gonna have you do your one that you did earlier, and I think we'll probably call it for this episode.
All right, I will. I'll see you guys later.
Holy shit, he jumped out the window! And he lives in a New York high rise. Why is the Zoom camera following him?
Oh my god! It's a perfect angle. It captured everything.
Why did he get naked before?
Congratulations, you guys are now accessory to a crime. Um, so I did do a local beer for my second beer. This is Fifth Hammer Brewing Company, which is in Long Island City. I almost ended up making a trip out there, but I haven't yet. So not really a fun fact to share about the brewery. Um, but this is just a
An
regular
unfun
Baltic
fact.
porter. It's a very bland fact, a very normal fact. This is called Beyond the Storm. It's 7.5%. No smoking of this Baltic Porter, just a regular Baltic Porter. And I don't know if that's why. So I gave it a 3.75 on Untapped. So just a touch below the other one for me, but still a very, very solid porter. Pouring it out, like, I don't know. I like when beers have like they got a good solid head on them, like, and it kind of like just fizzles down a little bit as it settles. I like that. This one, I don't know if, I mean, again, I probably poured it incorrectly or poorly, probably both. Um, and so it didn't have quite that same like stable head. It was pretty quick to leave, and then even when it was there, it was more airy. But as far as the taste of the beer, I guess, well, I'm talking about the aroma, so not the taste yet. But it almost smelled more metallic, which was really interesting to me.
Oh, that's a
So
weird
I was
note.
a little, yeah, I was a little off put, like when before I tasted it, I was a little nervous, to be honest. But then after tasting it, like it really hit. Again, it was a foundational porter to me. It hit everything that I was looking for. It had some, so it started out a little bit sweeter, but then did have like that rounder bitterness at the end. And I, I mean, this is kind of a shitty. I don't know if it's a shitty note, but it kind of is. I got like notes of like a berry, but I didn't really know what berry. So,
Like general fruit.
I've had that
yeah,
before. I
I
can't remember what
guess
beer I had here, but it
so
was
yes,
something where I just had like it was like I have some sort of fruity note. I'm not sure what, but it tastes like fruit.
yeah, it's not because like we've talked about in the past on here, like that generalized sweetness that isn't descriptive, I don't know. But this is like, it's a berry or it's a fruit, but like you don't know what it is.
It's like when something tastes like
Um,
melon. It's like, is it watermelon? Is it
yeah,
honeydew? Is it
right.
whatever
Yes,
melon you so choose? Luke's
exactly.
melon.
I feel
Yeah, I mean, I love fruit.
I feel like though with I mean this is kind of a side note, but I do feel like melon is one of those flavors that you can't like authentic melon you can't capture all that well. I don't know. Like I was trying to think earlier of what would be an example of a flavor that you can't capture as well as you can something like coconut.
I will agree with that because one of my dirty little secrets is I don't like real watermelon, but I love Sour Patch watermelons
Hmm,
Oh my
because they
god.
taste differently to me. They do
hmm.
taste different. So I totally get what you mean, Luke. Like it's like eating a real banana versus banana Laffy Taffy.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
for
artificial
sure.
banana's not good. Artificial bananas just straight up not good.
I will say, Sophie and I went to a coffee place down by my office one weekend, and they had like a banana bread cold foam cold brew coffee that she got,
Oh
and
my
it
god.
tasted like straight banana. Like it didn't taste like banana; it tasted like banana bread. It was phenomenal.
A banana runts.
Banana runts. What did we? Oh, we had. Oh, it was that Eagle Brewery from England. That banana bread beer that I mentioned a while ago
Yeah.
that you can find places
Okay.
that tastes like banana runts.
Huh.
If you guys ever see that beer like out in public, like I know you can probably find it at Beers of the World, Luke, because it's an international beer. Like I can find it at Total Wine, which is the same
Hmm.
type of thing. Like Keegan, I implore you to have it. It is a weird beer. It's almost like an amber that tastes like banana.
There is like it's funny because sometimes with Belgian style, I mean, not I'm going away kind of away from the amber, but like with Belgian ales, I found especially, I sometimes will get notes of banana or bubble gum.
Belgians, Belgians and Hefeweizens. Those taste like banana.
Trying to think if
So
I've
to me.
had a Hefeweizen that I got those notes from, but that's something now that it's in my head, it's going to be tucked somewhere in the back of it. I'm probably
I'll
gonna notice it a lot more.
I'll send you
He's
guys
gonna
some pictures from Gum Skull Brewing, which is the one we went to a couple weeks ago with Sophie's parents. Um, they have a beer called Schnitzky there, and it's and it's like the logo for it is like a knockoff Schlitz logo. That's the Where the Hell is Paul Brewing Company place.
Yeah.
But
Sweet.
the Schnitzky, that's like their signature beers, a Hefeweizen. They serve it in like a crazy fun glass, and every time they get it, like someone orders one, everyone who works there screams Schnitzky. Um,
I
but
love
that
that.
that beer tastes like banana.
Schnitzky. It's
Literally,
like
they go
like in
Schnitzky.
Cheers, like, instead of Norm, it's just
Yeah,
Schnitzky.
exactly.
No, it's the beer version of Welcome to Moe's.
Yeah, but I will ask Keegan, now
Yeah.
that you've had two Baltic porters, how do you
Yep.
like them compared to other porters that you've previously had? Like, I know you probably weren't drinking them side by side, but could you tell a difference? Could you not?
So just thinking about it, like there's definitely a little bit of a difference. So these ones, and again, I don't know how correct my analysis is, but I feel like Baltic porters almost ended up being more like brown ales for me, whereas most of porters end up heading towards the stout side, if that makes sense. So like I think Baltic porters, if there's a spectrum of porters, you have like your most of the porters that I've had have been closer to that stout. They've been a lighter stout, whereas this to me is a different beer. This is more of a related to the brown ale than the porter, or I'm sorry, than the stout.
And that's why I tend to like them. Not that I dislike stouts, but it's more that I think it's a more distinct taste and mouthfeel oftentimes.
Hmm.
I almost had a Baltic porter that I've been saving in like a beer fridge in Sophie's basement, called Ice Bear from Third Space Brewing. But I was like, no, I've had that beer before. I want to go different. But yeah, I totally agree. I think Baltic porters, it's weird until you have one that you don't really think that there's going to be that much of a difference. But I think it's that
Well,
lager yeast process and that
yeah.
cold fermenting that really does do something different for it.
Well, I've heard it compared to like you get sort of yeast, or not yeast. You
Tastes like
get
bread.
I've never tasted liquid bread before, but that's what no, you get more of a like kind of notes that you would get from a Schwarzbier. I think you
Yes.
might have mentioned it earlier, but yeah.
And I love a Schwartz beer. Like
Me
that's
too, dude.
that and a Czech dark. Like those could just lay it hurting on me.
Those are those will put Donnie in a Shinsky.
Yeah. A Schnitzky.
Schnitsky,
Schnitzky.
Schnitsky.
Yeah.
Damn it,
All
Keegan.
right.
Schnitzky.
Well, while I get my wheel up and while Keegan gets his question ready, you did a brewery hop, Luke. What was the best beer you had out of those and where'd you go?
Um, let's see here. So we went three places. We went we started at Mortalis, then we went to Rising Storm, and then we went to No BS. My favorite one that I had was at No BS, and I had it before, but it was a Scotch ale, go figure. But it was Groundkeeper Willie Scotch Ale. And actually, No BS is where
I gotta post that picture on the Instagram. I'm gonna do that
we
tomorrow.
still have to do that.
That
Yeah.
picture that we've mentioned it before, where Luke and I went there and got flights, and I had the craziest amount of head on a chocolate peanut butter porter. It was so funny.
Well, it was what was so wild about No BS is every time I go in there, they have like five additional beers on top of the normal amount that they would have the previous time I would go. So so they had two or three TV screens full of in small text different beer that they brewed.
Well, I remember that's why we got flights, is because we were both like, there's just so many freaking beers here.
Yeah. And no, so we very much stuck in that area, Lakeville, Livonia, Avon area, and it was so much fun.
Do you also remember when we went there that one night? We were like the only people in there, and then like a family showed up, and there were like children playing with like dump trucks and like toy, like, and they were the only other people in there. And, like,
Yeah.
the staff was all just like sitting there watching TV, and it was like it was like a Sunday evening, I think. Like it wasn't like any crazy day, but it was like we were like, what's going on here?
And then Luke
I've
went over and
gone.
stole the dump truck from those kids.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I wanted it. It was my turn. But but I've been quite a few more times after you and I went, Donnie, and it has not been that empty in any of those cases.
I was
Like
shocked.
I've even gone at off times, and it's just freaking packed all
I
the
was
time.
shocked because like that was when I was first like really getting into beers, and that was like I'm like these are good beers. Like what's going on?
Oh, it was just such a fun hop. Um, yeah, good times. Good times were had by all.
Nice. What's your question, Keegan?
I mean, I just go back to New York, so we're gonna keep it New York related. When you guys eat your pizza, do you fold it or do you not?
There is one right answer.
Yeah, I will indulge based on my Midwestern pizza experiences next week, but I will say yes, aliens are real. There's no way that the universe can be that big and there's not some other form of life out there.
And
No,
that
it's
seemed to be
just
the
Earth.
consensus too.
What does
Um,
that say?
nope, we got brown ales
My
again.
bad. My
I'd
bad.
cho-
Oh my
I'd choice
goodness.
spin. All right, we were just talking about last episode how we never get duplicates. Amber ale, goddamn it, hide choice spin again.
I,
These are all recent ones too. It's not like we can say like, oh, it's been a while since we hit the wild card. And I fucking speak of
What?
the devil.
No way.
Wild card.
Let's do a wild card again, guys. Let's shake it up.
It,
Yeah.
It's a different
it
season
feels like a
now.
wild card week.
It's not weekend. Or sorry, it's not summer yet. I don't know what season. It's not winter, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I meant to tell you guys, it
The
for
seasons
some
are
reason,
changing.
I mean, yeah, but I forgot to tell you guys, there's things growing on the trees.
It's creepy.
But
I'm
no,
colorblind.
I was going through Beers of the World, and they must have gotten like a very recent shipment in. You know how I said we don't have many cream ales around us? That's still kind of the case, but I saw maybe 4 or 5 strawberry cream ales from different breweries.
It's got to be a
One was like
seasonal thing
strawberry
then.
cream, and then there's strawberry cream ale, and then it was like, so Jenny may have been the first ones to do it with that. Jenny, what was it?
Lemon
The
strawberry.
Lemon
lemonade,
strawberry. Yeah.
Also, speaking of Jenny, are we going to talk about it or are we going to wait till they release it?
The alleged peach mango beer that's apparently coming out.
It's another Kolsch.
OJ Simpson level allegations.
I don't know if it's another Kolsch though, Luke, because on the graphic that they shared, the teaser. So for those who don't know, Jenny teased they have a new beer coming out, and then I was reading the Instagram comments, and apparently Wegmans has signs of this, like prepping for it for a while. They had it looked like a wheat on it, so it might be a peach mango wheat beer.
Oh,
Because
I would
out
be
here,
quite interested in
Lakefront
that.
Brewery does Brewsicle, which is a peach mango wheat beer. So I'm curious to see what comes of it.
it's so tough. I mean, we mentioned recently they're in such a tough position because the Jenny Kolsch, the ruby red grapefruit was such a huge success and hit. It's like it'll be a timeless classic. That anything they do fruit wise, people will immediately tie it to try and compare it to the ruby red.
And that's why you're gonna try it, is because the ruby red was so fucking good.
Yes. Yep.
Like I like that beer, that like full transparency, that could be a Mount Rush beer for me. Like
The Kolsch.
yes, like that. I think that is like top 5 easy drinkers in the world.
I'll straight up tell you, like, I'm not even going to allude to it. That is in my Mount Rush beer.
I have a question.
No.
Okay.
We don't
Sorry,
have
Well,
answers.
thank you,
God.
everybody. I'm glad we had such a great podcast episode. We'll probably call it here.
Bring us your question, Luke.
What's your question, Luke?
For the Mount Rush beer, are we doing it based on the impact that the presidents had? So, like, first president Like,
The first beer we ever drank.
yeah, the first beer we
The
drank.
beer that freed our slaves, which is obviously our inhibitions. Abe Lincoln's on Mount Rushmore, right? Like, I'm not crazy on that one, right? I have to remember what Mount Rushmore looks like. Yeah, he's on there. Okay, I'm not crazy.
Well,
Well, on
like
that,
the one that had a profound difference in our lives, maybe like, are we doing it that way? Or are we literally picking 4 that are important to us?
I think
I
it's
think
the 4 that's important to us. Like the 4 that we
yes,
want to put on a pedestal and like say like if I could have 4 beer, like I kind of almost look at it like if I could have 4 beers that are constantly in my fridge and those are the only 4 beers and there's an infinite supply of them, you know, every time I grab one, another one takes its place. Like, what are the 4 beers that it's gonna be?
Gotcha. Well, and I heard that they were making an update to Mount Rushmore.
Really? Who are they adding? OJ Simpson?
No, no, they're doing the Mr. Potato Head different expressions that they could just switch out. It's pretty cool.
Oh, just with a helicopter. All right, we'll tune in next week for our second wild card episode. It's crazy that we already have 2 of these, but I think it's nice for us to just kind of explore and showcase beers that we want to talk about.
Yeah.